All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to my new channel. So, I said yesterday on my other channel that I really wish I had a new channel because sometimes I want to talk about other stuff, right? My other channel, I talk a lot about the Bible and stuff like that. And on this one, I really just needed another outlet because I do a lot of creative work. I have since I was about 16 years old. And there are various things that I am like I have master level skills in some things, and then some I would say I'm aspiring, right? But when it comes to this one thing, I have been doing this one thing since I was 16 years old, and that is making beats, making music. Okay? So I'm not going to do the great introduction just yet. I just want to start off my channel with something. And this right here, I wrote this back in August. I mean, not August, but October. And this is just some beginner advice for FL Studio. People that are just getting in the FL Studio. Now, a lot of people would say, well, who is this guy? Why should I take his advice? What do he know how to do that make his advice worth my time? All I'm going to say is this. I wish I could have started this off with some kind of tutorial or something like that. But because I'm on a very strict time limit right now, I just got to kind of do what I can. All right. So you will run into a lot of bad advice about FL Studio on YouTube. Like you really will. Because most of the people you hear from, right? I mean, a whole lot of it is opinion based, like which is understandable. Okay. It's understandable that a lot of it is opinion based, but it's also good to have a second opinion sometime. And these are just things that I learned from when I first started FL Studio, when I took almost a 7-year break, when I got into photography and stuff like that, and then got back into FL Studio, things I had to relearn again that really stood out to me that I feel like I had to learn for a second time. And the very first thing I want to say is this. Stop letting people tell you not to buy the all plugins edition. The reason why I say that is because you really don't know what you're going to want to use unless you had access to it. Like I heard people say, just buy producer edition and then buy all the plugins you think you might want one by one. But if you looked at the prices on ImageLine's website for just Poison, Toxic Biohazard, Kepler XO, Sakura, things like that, they almost running about $100 a piece. And by the time you buy two plugins one by one, instead of just spending the money to upgrade, you would have already spent the money to upgrade, right? So like, let me just go to something real quick. And I just kind of want to show you this, or like, I at least want to go over it because I'm looking at it on my phone. And because this is a little quick video, I just kind of want to actually talk about it. So right now, producer edition is $179. When I bought producer edition, it was like $125 at the time because it was on sale. And then from there, my all plugins edition upgrade was like $135. So altogether, I probably spent about, maybe after taxes, about $275 altogether for all plugins edition. And just buying 3 one by one plugins could cost that much money. And if we go to compare editions, right? Audio recording, like let's just forget audio recording, stem separation, right? All that lifetime update stuff. Let's go to the plugin, like the instruments you get, right? Producer edition, you get 27. All plugins edition, you get 39. That's 12 extra plugins that can run almost $100 a piece, right? And like some of my most used plugins in FL Studio, Harmor, right? That can only be gotten in all plugins edition. Kepler XO, I find myself using that in every beat. And Kepler is not Kepler XO. I'm gonna just be honest. Harmless is not Harmer. I'm gonna just be honest. Morphine, I find myself using that in every beat. Ogun, I can't stand the sound. It sounds too reverby. Poison, I find myself using that in every beat. Most of the time, the only plugins I use in every beat are the ones you can find in All Plugins Edition only. And you really won't know what you're missing unless you had access to it. And that's why some people will oftentimes treat FL Studio, oh, Toxic Biohazard. I got one sound in Toxic Biohazard I really like. Just one. Like just one sound. And I didn't, right? Like, and I find myself using that one sound a whole lot. But that's why a lot of people treat FL Studio like it's the software you start with and then plan to upgrade to. Like you start with FL Studio and then you upgrade to a MPC. It's like, nah, this ain't that. This is my MPC. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't something you get started with and then make plans to upgrade to something else. It's not like that. I honestly believe you could live your whole music life in just FL Studio. Even if you record vocals, bands, guitar, just doing podcasts. Like, I really believe you can, but FL Studio got one flaw, and that's doing hardware audio inserts. It seemed like the program is not built to do it because it can only do stereo out per channel. And then you gotta like pan it all the way to the left in order to get one output. And it's nah, man. When it come to doing hardware inserts, like if I wanted to mix my vocals or VST through like my EQP or 1176, if it ain't stereo, I guess FL Studio don't natively support it without workarounds. And I think that that's a huge missed opportunity with FL Studio. So let me take a little bit of break and let me complain about that for a minute. Honestly, FL Studio, we do not need more plugins. Like, we don't need more of the same stuff y'all already been doing. Like, it's like 4 choruses native in FL Studio, like 3 flangers. I don't know how many limiters and samplers and audio editors, and you still have yet to actually do a proper implementation of hardware inserts, going one channel out of the interface back into the same or back into another. It's like, fix that stuff on y'all next update. All these extra plugins y'all doing, we got enough plugins. In fact, most of people's plugins are not even image line plugins. Honestly, like, we not asking for another instrument at all. Like, fix the mixer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Other than that, it's great software. But let's get back to what I was saying. Very first piece of advice, which I would say is number 0, because number 1 is something entirely different. But I would just say this is number 0. Make plans to get All Plugins Edition. And along with that, first start with Producer Edition. Find out if you like making beats. You will not know if you really like making beats unless you had more things unlocked on the program. Don't buy Fruity Edition. Don't buy Signature Bundle. Only buy Signature Bundle unless you are making plans to incrementally upgrade. But even then, it's not that much more money than just getting all plugins edition. All right. So let me go back. Okay. So after you get All Plugins Edition, make up in your mind. Well, after you get All Plugins Edition, you probably made up in your mind that you are already invested in FL Studio. Okay. Buying All Plugins Edition says, I'm invested in this DAW. make plans to get a FL Key MIDI controller. It's a really nice touch to the program. It really is. Sometimes it's a lot easier to find melodies just getting the FL Key MIDI controller, and you can control native image line instruments right from the MIDI controller, like individual parameters of a synth and the mixer and all of that, start, stop, record, note, repeat, things of that nature. You could do that right from the MIDI controller. That's a nice touch to the program. 100% of the time I make beats, I'm using I would say about 95% of the time I make beats, I'm using my MIDI controller, unless I'm somewhere else and I'm not in a position to carry it around. So make sure you make up in your mind at some point that's what you want, unless you got something else that you prefer already. But if you invested in FL Studio, like, that's a good thing to have. Okay, so I'm gonna actually get on to the video, right? Because I probably done talked about 10 minutes and I haven't really gotten to what I wrote down back in October 6, 2015. Start with the intention, and this is for beginner beat makers in FL Studio. Start with the intention of getting done today. Literally, if you start a beat with the intention of taking you more than one session to finish, like if you start a beat with the intention of it taking you more than one session to finish, you will hardly ever get back to it. You will do things that will make you complicate your process. So every time you start a beat, assume I'm getting this beat done today. Chances are you might not. But if you approach it that way, you get organized up front. If you approach it that way, like you don't put a lot of slop in your workflow saying, oh man, I got all week to work on this beat. And then you start off with the intention that I'm about to just complicate this because I got nothing but time on my hands. No, every beat don't need to be super complex. In fact, most of the music out here is very simplistic beats. When you start a beat simple, you know how to complicate it, but you ain't gonna complicate it first. So if you approach it like, I'm gonna start this and finish it today, even if you working on it for 3 days, starting it that way will more than likely result in work that actually get done. Okay, even if you got to start 3 different beats, like you start a beat, man, I don't like this, all right, just go to the next one, but that melody, keep that. You know what I'm saying? Just keep that, because you might start another beat on a whole nother day, maybe even a whole month from now, and you like, wait a minute, I know a good melody that'll go with this, a beat I started and just scratched last month, right? Always keep your starters if you don't finish them, but when you start, intend to finish it, okay? And I haven't read this since I wrote it. This is my first time reading this since I wrote it. I really just kind of jumped in. I just made this channel like 20 minutes ago. I'm not even lying to you, and just jumped straight to it. Start off simple. The simpler you begin, this number 2, the simpler you begin, the easier it is to be more complex later. If you start too complex, you might overwhelm what you can do. Literally, I just got done talking about that, but I can still explain. If you trying too hard up front to make stuff sound like a banger, like if you trying too hard up front to make stuff sound like it took so much skill and so much work and so much this, like you got to approach this like a beat maker and not a live musician. All right, like there's time and place for either kind of person, but when you approach this like a beat maker, most of the time you actually do finish beats, and that beat might finish sounding complicated, but because you started simple, you knew what pieces go where as the project went on. All right, number 3, Don't be afraid to copy other producers' beats as a reference for your own. Literally, don't. Because I guarantee you, somebody gonna pick up something from you and use it. And almost everything you know, like just the thought of even wanting to make beats, you probably picked up from somewhere. So don't be afraid to copy other producers' beats as a reference for your own. By the time you finish the beat, it will sound totally different anyway. But all these beats on YouTube, all these beats you can flip through, they can really kind of help you understand what vibe you want right now. And they could kind of help you understand what instruments sound good with others. Like they can help you kind of understand different hi-hat and snare patterns and different bass lines. But by the time you get done, it's not going to sound nothing like it. Just don't be afraid to use references. Everything ain't got to be completely off the top of your head. Like, don't nobody need to know that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And, you need something to go by until you develop your own style and your own way of creating your own melodies off the top of your head. Like, yes, you need something to go by. Honestly, like, if ain't nobody gonna sit you down and teach you how to make beats, just copy. Like, bro, like just copy and add your own flavor to it. It's only so many bass lines a person could come up with. At some point, everything is copied. It's only so many snare patterns you can put with such and such bass line and such melody with such and such instrument. At some point, something is going to sound similar to somebody else's. But don't nobody need to know that, right? As long as is it, for the most part, is your own work. Okay? For the most part, it's your own work. Now, I don't want you to live that way or make a habit out of it, but it is a good place to start. All right. Use stock FL instruments and samples. Don't crowd your mind with so many different VSTs to choose from. FL Studio gives you so much to work with alone. Stock instruments are easier on your CPU because everybody ain't got a workstation computer, right? They don't take extra time to load licenses and all this other stuff, and are optimized for the program and for the FL Key MIDI controller. It will become easier to remember what you want to use later if you don't have so many different things to look through. This is a big deal. All these people with hundreds and thousands of plugins, it's like, bro, when I got back in the FL Studio, the first thing I said is, I need a bunch of plugins, right? Because when I got my FL Key MIDI controller, it came with a big old Native Instrument bundle. Actually, I had two FL Key MIDI controllers, and they both came with a Native Instruments bundle, and I could get 1 out of 3 per MIDI controller. I can get the electro one, the band one, or the trap one, and I got the electro and the trap one. And yeah, like I since then got rid of the first MIDI controller, which was the Key 37, and I stuck with the Key 49. But yet I still had that big old plugins bundle from Native Instruments and Addictive Keys and all of that. And I had all that stuff in my, I had all the Wave plugins and, I had something else, Universal Audio, all of that. And I got all that mess off my computer. At some point, I said to myself, I don't even know what I'm looking for. I don't even know what I want to use. And just having so much to choose from, it make it hard to commit to anything. And honestly, this right here is the biggest deal. If you don't take any word of advice as an absolute serious thing, take this piece. Just learn to like stock stuff and make the absolute best of it, because them stock plugins, they give you no reason to need anything else. With plugins like Harmor, Kepler XO, Toxic Biohazard, Morphine, it's like, bruh. Oh, let me forget, like, don't let me forget Sakura. Man, that stuff is golden. Oh, and make sure you scour through and get as many presets as you can for them stock plugins, just so that way you can have an idea of what those plugins are capable of actually making. You know, like, I technically don't know how to work a synth. I technically don't. I kind of play around with stuff until it kind of sound like how I want it, but that's after finding a preset to start with, right? If you ain't got a good amount of presets to pick through, like, you might think it's a trash plugin if you don't really know how to work a synth. Since then, I've been learning how to work a synth. But after you find out what plugins is your favorites, that got what sounds in it you like, then that's when you can start adding other stuff to the bundle. I mean, like, like, don't do all that up front, because you can suffer from something called option paralysis or analysis paralysis, or something like that. What made the 80s and the 90s so musically inspiring is that they had a lot of limitations, and they were forced to make do with what they had. After buying a Yamaha DX7 or a Korg Triton or something like, or an MPC, ain't nobody have money like that to just buy eight more of them. Like, people bought what they bought and they made use out of it and they made music. Approach FL Studio like this too, or, like, it's gonna be hard for you to be musically inspired. It just is. As you level up in experience is when you say, okay, I like the Oberheim sound, and I like the this, and I like the PPG wave type of sound, and I like the mini Moog sound too. Like, as you get further and further into this, then you know what plugins to buy later. But don't do all that stuff first, even if they free plugins, because it's gonna make your life hard too early, and you gonna think this is too much, and you never gonna get beats made like that. Always force some kind of limitation on yourself in order to be able to commit to something. All right. When we have more freedom, we need more responsibility. Like, there is no such thing as real freedom without responsibility. But when you force to have limitations, you tend to be forced to be more responsible. But when you got more freedom, it's easy to just be lackadaisical and just never really make the best of stuff, right? But force that on yourself up front. I know what I'm talking about. I know you want to know what this sound like and what that sound like. Fine. But at some point, just know, hey, I need to cut back on some of my sounds, because first, I want to develop my own sound, and I'm not going to develop my own sound if I got 3,000 different VSTs to pick from all the time. It's like, nah, like, start recycling some of the sounds you used before in order to really develop your own sound. When people hear that, they're going to be like, yeah, I know who made that beat, because that's the sound they use. Like, it's just like any other genre or field of work, right? They all say find a niche. So that way people know why to call you, right? Like me, I'm a master, like, I'm a master level photographer, okay? And I'm so happy to be able to say that, but it took a whole lot of work. If you do portraits and wildlife and sports and cars and that, people ain't gonna know what to call you for. And when you got every time you make a beat, it sound like it's made by a whole nother person. People ain't gonna know what to look up your beats for. They gonna be like, I don't even know why I'm looking up his beats. Every one of his beats sound like it's made by a whole nother person. See, people know why they, like, everybody know why they want a Zaytoven beat. It sound like something he did, because most of the time they the same sounds. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all they is just organized differently. But people like him had limitations when he was just getting started, right? And you want to push that on yourself too. So that way you got a pretty good start at this, all right? Have a set few instruments or synths, and this number 5, that you use as your go-to for when you start a beat. I just got done talking about this. It seemed like every one of these points blend together. Between 3 or 4 things you know you like to start creating your melody. Don't overwhelm progress you can make by reaching too far with things you do. Don't reach too far. Just know what sound good. Okay, I know every time I use this sound, I usually make something out of that sound. So let me reach for that sound and just know what I'm about to do with it. And then it's like, as you get through the beat, you might be like, let me tweak that sound a little bit. And it might turn out to be a whole different sound, but it's a beat you like, right? But just have some things you know you gonna use all the time. Just some, right? And number 6, but at the same time, have your days when you explore instruments and presets. This is important. You need to just have these days when you ain't making no beats. I'm just flipping through sounds. So that way you know what you do and don't like. Save presets, favorite presets, and save audio versions of manipulated stock samples for you to use later. So that way, like, you ain't got to set them all up through the mixer and get it to sound the same way all the time, right? Just have days when you looking through stuff and just putting it aside for use later. So that way you don't forget about something you just said. Oh, that sound dope. And then by the time the next day come around, you don't even remember that you even thought something sounded dope, because like you never took time to just put stuff aside, made templates, made mixer track templates and stuff like that. Like you need stuff, like you need days when you set up templates and favorites and presets just to be able to go reach for them right away. Because you might be in a predicament to where, like, you need to get a beat made now, right? Like, you might be in a predicament to where, like, I don't know, you just can't do that much thinking. Like, you got a melody in your head and you want to go lay this down and you don't want to forget what you wanted to do, because you got to flip through samples, like the whole dang on sample pack or all the presets, in order to find what sounds similar to what you got in your head. You want to already have what you like set aside for just immediately being able to grab it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want stuff like that. All right, man. I don't know why my app keep closing out, and then I got to keep on going back to my notepad here. So I just need to keep my screen on. Get your main loop done first. This is number 7. Before you start being more complex with your ideas, do that on playlist pattern 1. And what I mean by your main loop is, like, for the most part, how the whole beat gonna sound with every instrument on there. Because sometimes what I do is I use different instruments on different parts of the beat, but when I'm structuring the beat and I'm doing my main loop, they all playing at the same time. And as I start structuring everything in the playlist, I realize I don't want both of these instruments playing at the same time. I want them to play at different times, right? Because they don't necessarily sound together playing on top of each other, but they do go with the beat. It's just that they don't necessarily go with each other at the same time. but you want to get all that done first, so that way you can better start breaking down the beat as you get through the beat. And like I mean like the main loop, as in like for the most part what your chorus gonna sound like, because most of the time your chorus got more instruments in it than your verses and stuff like that. And and as you start breaking down your beat, like you can separate each instrument on different, on different like a playlist pattern, like pattern 1 2 3 4. Like man, like I wish I could show you, but I can't. All right. After main loop is done on playlist pattern 1, start separating your instruments. It's number 8. And samples across different playlist patterns. And track out your beat on the playlist as soon as possible. As soon as you get that boy tracked out, you gonna come up with new ideas. I promise you is. But if you just stuck on the main loop, hey, that's probably about the furthest you can go with coming up with ideas, is when you get that main loop done. Make sure you pattern everything separately per instrument. Hi-hats on one pattern, snares on one pattern. Like, bass line on one pattern, the second bass line on another pattern, main synthesizer on another pattern. Like the secondary synthesizer on another pattern, the piano keys on a whole nother pattern. Do that as soon as you possibly can, so that way you can be closer and closer to actually finishing a beat. You might discover you overproduced it, and now you got to start taking stuff out. That's what I run into a lot. Like I don't always discover something else to put in. A lot of times I discover something that need to be took out, because now that I'm really listening to it in a more broke down manner, I'm realizing it's overproduced. Like, and that's good. But you ain't gonna know that until you start tracking it all out and listening to it, like intro, verse, hook, second verse, hook, and then the outro. Like, unless you actually get a chance to hear it like that, you really ain't gonna know what you got for real. Like, All right. So number 9, after you see how your beat is coming together on the playlist, make sure you create time markers for intro, hook, verse, breaks, and the ending. That way you know the structure of your beat. It lets you know where to add what, where to take out what, when to start being more complex. See, everything I'm saying right now, it's like I know this in my head already. And I wrote this back in October, and I haven't read it since October. Like, since the day I wrote it, I haven't read it. Like, this is still a big deal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Make sure you structure your beat. Ain't nothing worse than listening to another producer's beat on YouTube, because this happened to me a lot, and that's why I got back into making beats. All because when I started recording my own music again, I was just gonna buy everybody else beats, because I'm like, nah, that's something else I got to get into. That's something I gotta buy. That's something I need to invest in. That's something I need to. And I was just gonna buy everybody else beats. But ain't nothing worse than coming up with a fire hook to a beat that ain't got no set structure to it whatsoever. You don't know where a verse is. You don't know where a hook is. Like, you don't even know if it's 16 bars, 12 bars, or what. And I've ran across a lot of beats like that. That's why you want to make sure you structure the stuff right, so that way you know what goes where and when. When does it end, right? Like, you need to have a good idea of knowing, okay, this verse about to end right here, because it's starting to sound like it's about to end. What most people do is they put like some snares at the end, right? Or they might change the bass line up a little bit. Like, they might go from an 808 to like an acoustic kick. And that's how you know it's coming to the end of that verse, because now, like, it's a much softer bass line. or they might have some kind of like transition effect, like a spaceship sound or something like that. Like you need to have an idea of when what part of your beat is ending, right? In order for other people that might buy it to actually be able to use it. Because I was getting ready to buy some beats and I'm like, I don't even know how this beat go. I don't know if I should write a 16 bar verse or what, because ain't no way to determine this. I actually got a song recorded like to a beat I didn't even buy yet because they said I could use it for free. I wanted to just record the song just to see what it would sound like. Bass line way too distorted. Like couldn't turn it down. I'm like, even if I could figure out the structure of this beat, I don't even want it. Oh, and that was the same beat I couldn't figure out the structure to as well. Like all that bass line stuff, I could have lived with that, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, let me just make my own beat, man. Like, forget it. And that's what made me mad enough to do it. I'm not lying. Like, I thought my days of making beats was over because I had enough stuff I did already, right? But then I'm like, nah, man. Like, if we gonna do music at all, let's just do it all in house, man. So that way we ain't got all these problems. And then I think another thing that made me real mad enough to just get back into making my own beats too is after writing a whole song to a beat on YouTube, I then went to go to that producer's website and it was took down and I couldn't even buy the beat. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. All right, man. Now I know one thing. I know I can always have access to my own beat. But if you go and buy somebody's beat, their website took down, or like you can't figure out the structure, like you don't know where the verse start or just nothing. Nah, man. I'm all right, bro. And these is problems I ran into with other producers, not just my own beats, but with other people beats. And what made you think somebody can't run across same issue with yours, right? But so get that stuff structured. Like you need to know what a verse sound like, because if somebody asks you, like you need to know when to tell them during the hook, this instrument plays. When that instrument ain't playing no more, that's when you know it's a verse. All right. Number 10, don't fully master your beat. This is another thing that I ran into buying other people's beats is they too mastered. Like, don't fully master your beat. Leave some room for audio engineers and recording artists. Leave room for somebody to master the whole song when vocals get there, right? If you make your own beats for your own music, don't just master the whole beat all by itself. Leave some room for you to add that final compression once the vocals get there. Or else your beat is going to sound worse than your vocals is for whatever reason. Like just leave some breathing room for whoever recording on your beat to make some adjustments later. Like, please do this. I've had this problem with a lot of beats I recorded on. And I'm like, man, it's just too much compression on this. Like, man, by the time I glue this whole track together on the master bus, it's like, I don't, something wrong with the beat now. Look, I know what I'm talking about, right? I just do. Like, you want your beat to sound as next to raw as possible. And I got a reason for why I say that. Hopefully I remember. Wait. I'm about to just type it in. Leave your beats sounding a little raw. Because I want to go to the next point. All right. And this is a bonus right here, but I guess I got two bonuses. Number 11. The artist is your last and most important instrument. Whoever laying down the vocals is an instrument. You need to know that. Leave room for the artist to complete how the beat sounds. It is very difficult to use a beat that don't give an artist room to shine. Like just doing too much, too many guitar solos and all of this, and can't nobody even put nothing on top of it. Like that's why I say make beats more simple, and then you know when to complicate stuff a little later. Because if you got melodies that stand out too much and you just going a little too far with this or too far with that, it's gonna sound like a completed song all by itself, and ain't nobody gonna want to use the beat or know what to come up with to the beat. Like, leave some room for vocals to go there. Like, it's gonna save you a lot of headache of unused beats that sound good, but you can't do nothing with them in order to realize this. And then when you go back and listen to other people's beats like D Rich and people like that, you like, man, they got like 3 instruments in them beats. And I'm over here with 15 different instruments. And it's, look, you gonna learn this, but like try and learn it now. Okay, if you just getting started with making beats, even if you don't use FL Studio, stop putting too much in there. Like if you gotta put too much in there at first, that's when I say go ahead and track it all out and make hook and verse sound like hook and verse, and then you know what to take out, because you might find out it sound overproduced, right? And then number 12, this is the last bonus. Leave your beats sounding a little raw. Look, like I'm gonna tell y'all my biggest gripe in the world, especially with presets. Every time I get a new plugin, like I done got plugins from GeForce, I had plugins from Native Instruments, Waves, and especially ImageLine plugins, because I got the most experience with just ImageLine stock plugins. It seemed like every preset is drenched in reverb and chorus. And everybody always say analog sound better than digital. And then you got the manufacturers of these plugins that say, oh yeah, we did analog modeling. But the real reason why people believe that analog sound better than digital is that every time a digital plugin is made, every one of their presets is drenched in effects. Take some of that stuff out because it sound too fake. Just look, I had to go into my GeForce plugins, like literally until I found out that I can like turn off the effects once and then lock it depending on like what I'm doing. But I had to go through all my presets, and I'm still doing this with FL presets too. Oh yeah, I had like 1,000 FL presets in just Poison that I had to convert to like the new format because I downloaded them from somewhere, and it was all slapped with just so much reverb and delay. And I'm like, I don't even know what this really sound like. I don't even know if I like this. It sound digital because of all the effects that get slapped on the preset. And when people hear FL Studio beats, a lot of times they can tell it's a FL Studio beat just because it's too many effects on it. Just because somebody did too much. It sound like you had access to a computer program. And people like authenticity a lot more than they like stuff to be polished, stuff to be complex and deep and all that. Everybody say, well, MPC beats sound better. One of the reasons a lot of people like MPC beats is because MPCs don't give you enough RAM in order to be able to drench everything in effects. I'm just keep it all the way real with you. One of the reasons MPC beats sound better is because you can't do too much to them. If you leave your beat sounding more raw, they're gonna sound more real. And like, even though there's other reasons why people say that the older MPC beats sounded better is because you really couldn't do that much with the stuff. It's like the sound you got, the sound you gonna get. Make a beat with it. And people like that raw approach to stuff. But all that over compression, all that over reverb, over this and over that just because you got it, that can give people the impression that your beats sound cheap, even if it's just because it's overproduced. Let that stuff sound raw. Like let them like what's that word? Not transients. Heck, like let them harmonics, like, you know what I'm saying, have time to shine, right? But all that just too much. Oh man, just too much reverb. Like, man, sound like I'm getting ready to drown. Man. Oh, and another thing, and this one more last bonus. I believe it's gonna be like 13. Learn to just make space in your beats too. And one of the good ways to make space is by utilizing chorus. Like chorus is a good way to separate stuff from the middle of your beat and kind of like space it out a little bit more. But don't do it in a way to where it's too easy to tell that was a chorus. Or you can pan stuff left and right a little bit. FL Studio got this knob in the mixer to where you can do like stereo separation and kind of space stuff out a little bit more in a way that can give you the same effect that somebody might be looking for as far as trying to get more space, like for why they would use a chorus other than that chorusy type of sound. But learn to make space. Ain't nothing worse than trying to get a vocal to sit in the mix and the beat is just too in the middle. Make some space, please. Please, people that buy your beats gonna thank you. Like, man, my vocal sat right in there. Yeah, that's because somebody made space. They knew when to pan this and pan that, and right? But a chorus is a good way, like, to keep stuff on both sides of the channel, but separated from the middle. Learn when to do that and try not to overdo that, please, because then it's gonna sound fake. Don't overdo it, please. Just because you got access to all these effects and all of that stuff, it don't mean slap everything on there that you got. Because that could be taken away from a professional sound, and you really won't think so until you start listening to your beats compared to somebody else's beats, and you like, how come they beats sound more plain, but it sound better? Because it sound less overdone. You know what I'm saying? So I just thought that somebody would really want to know this. Just getting into FL Studio. On this channel, we gonna talk about a whole lot more stuff. I got photography, video, filmmaking. I'm learning animation right now. I had to take a break from doing my animation class simply because I just got tired of looking at it. I'm like, oh, I need a break. So I just decided to just make a new channel and start talking about production-wise kind of stuff. And it's a lot we can talk about. If there's anything you want to know about any genre of media production, the only thing I don't know how to do is actually play an instrument. I look, I might got a MIDI controller, and that's as far as I'm going, because I don't even know how to play it. Like, honestly, all I know how to do is play around until something sounds good, and then I make a beat with it, right? But if it's anything you want to learn, okay, well, how do I do this or do that or do this and do that? What I'm gonna start doing is putting some of my work up here on this channel, so that way, like, you can kind of get a good idea of what I know how to do, so that way, like, you know what to ask. But if you don't know, you just don't know, right? But other than that, y'all, I thank y'all for coming by. First video on my new channel. I said on my last channel, I need another channel because I don't always want to talk about the Bible all the time. I be having a lot of stuff on my mind, like the prices of RAM and all these GPUs coming out, but they ain't really getting that much better and stuff like that. I want to talk about other stuff sometime. And that's kind of why I made this channel. And I also want to put my music and my films and stuff like that on a separate channel than where I talk about the Bible and stuff, just to kind of keep that kind of stuff separated. So that way the algorithm know how to promote my channel to other people, because if it's just too like multi like if it just got too many genres of stuff on there, like it's not gonna really get out to people, because I'm gonna confuse the algorithm on who to send what. Like, you know what I mean? But other than that, y'all, I thank y'all for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hopefully one day we can go over some type of tutorial. I can actually show you how I made a beat, right? Like if y'all want to see that, let me know. So, peace.